It's no secret that the internet is full of, well, let's just say, interesting fitness myths. In fact, that was actually the reason I wanted to start taking a personal training course to begin with, for my own education, so I could be a better debunker of said myths. But because I'm still enrolled in the course myself, I turned to some of my friends to ask them what was their favorite thing they learned was total baloney, but so commonly known as fact in the fitness community. I'm gonna start with my friend Madeline Faith Fitness. I kind of forget how we found one another. It's weird how you just end up following people, but she's fully certified. She actually does one-on-one coaching, and she has a very holistic, healthy, very balanced approach, and really emphasizes living in that gray area of not all or nothing when it comes to fitness and a healthy lifestyle. Okay, I said I would love to ask for your help on something fun. I'm thinking about making a video where I debunk things that are commonly spread in the fitness community, but are actually total BS. LOL. What was your favorite thing you learned about from your CPT that is your favorite thing to debunk? Now I hope she replies. Next, I'm gonna message Justina, who was my personal trainer. She's the queen of just calling things out, which I so admire because that's something I need to work on myself. Of course, she does one-on-one training. That's what we did together, but she also has virtual classes. Okay, I need your help. Why am I having such a hard time phrasing this? It's such an easy concept, right? Ugh. Okay, I hope I didn't wake her up from this message because I'm pretty sure it's almost 1 a.m. where she lives. Now I'm gonna ask my friend Jasmine Ann, and I really like this perspective because she's just like me. She's only a CPT in training, so I kind of want the perspective of another fellow student, if you will. Okay, so if you're down for it, I need your help. I'm so annoying. I want to know your favorite thing you learned from your CPT courses thus far. I think I said this far, that you love debunking for your family or friends, or just something that makes you so angry to see spread inaccurately online. I'm also going to message my friend Kayla. Now, she's super cool. She's an F45 coach, which if I had one near me, you bet your bottom dollar I'd be too scared to go, but I would want to go. So already the most respect for her being a coach, in addition to, of course, also having her CPT from NASM. Copying, pasting from the message I sent Jazz, I pretty much said the exact same thing. Also added thank you if you do want to help, because I don't want people to feel like they have to answer me. Lastly, I'm also going to message my friend Holly Stark. I actually was on her podcast with her friend Mary. They host a podcast called Get Fitty With It. And Holly actually had a very similar approach to why she wanted to get her CPT as I do, which was purely out of education, purely just out of her own interest and desire and wanting to educate the people around her, which I totally love. So I'm kind of interested to see her perspective as kind of more of a layman, if you will, like myself. Sent the message, good, ready to go. Last but not least, I'm going to send one to Danny Fernandez. And I like this because tooting my own horn. Danny got her CPT from ACE, and I wanna say a lot of these other creators that I've mentioned have all gotten theirs from NASM. So I'm curious to see maybe if there's any differences. I'm sure it is all generally the exact same messaging, but either way, I want another perspective, I want another opinion, and honestly, I would love to hear more thoughts on this. Crafting this beautiful copy and pasted message. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, I don't know what came over me or what simply gave me the confidence, but I decided this morning to message Rachel DeVoe and Soph Butler, who are both CPTs. Rachel's also an RD and a PES, and they're just people that I've always looked up to, and I just get nervous to message people. So far, neither of them have replied, but I'm not expecting a response. I'm really just, you know, out here shooting my shot, and I'm all right with an air ball. I really am. I kind of feel bad. I had full intention of changing locations for this second segment, I guess. But in full transparency, my house is kind of a complete disaster. So I chose this quaint little corner once again because it's hard to mess up. If I was skilled enough, I'd use my bright jumper as some sort of green screen. Do I look like the Queen of England? Wait a minute. I digress. Let's get into all of the fun responses, breaking down all of these myths. You could even say stereotypes, misinformation, just, you know, things that we want to debunk. But first, a special word from our sponsor, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is just absolutely incredible. It is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people, which I kind of like to think of myself as. With Skillshare, you can explore new skills, develop existing interests, and get lost in creativity. The first class that I took on Skillshare was from Danielle Koch, who's actually one of my all-time favorite Instagram artists. I literally have her art right here in my office. I stare at it every single day. Her class is called Instagram Illustration, Make Shareable Art for Social Change. It's about an hour-long course that's broken up into very digestible sections. She's very easy to listen to and follow along with, and she took a topic that used to be very intimidating to me into something that now feels extremely approachable and something I could even tackle myself. I also loved it because it was extremely engaging and I wasn't really sure what to expect, if it was just going to be a boring lecture, but it was so beautifully made, so well curated. It almost felt like a documentary that you just take notes on. It was wonderful. If you're uncertain about what's next, creative challenges and productivity classes can be a great way to help you structure your time and set up achievable goals. At a time when so many important conversations are happening in our world, your voice is more essential than ever. With Skillshare, you can explore classes to unlock your creativity for social good. That was one of the main reasons I wanted to do Danielle's class to begin with, because I already support her, but how could I actually learn more from her beyond just following her on Instagram? Skillshare offers memberships that have meaning. You can connect with the support of fellow creatives and enter a community of encouragement, communication, and inspiration. Whether you're looking to fend off boredom, focus on self-care through creativity, or join a similarly creative community, Skillshare is the place to keep you learning. I also think a Skillshare membership would be a fantastic gift to give someone. If you know someone in your life that just loves learning, they're an eternal student at heart, fantastic gift idea. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description box will get a free trial to use Skillshare Premium membership, and after that it's only around $10 a month. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. I am an absolute eternal learner, student at heart, so I absolutely love using Skillshare. I hope that you check it out. Use the link in my description box, and let's get the heck into this video. Okay, sorry, so much green. What is happening with me? I am not a green person. I don't know. Let's start with Jazz because she had a really good answer. She said so many things, which is sort of alarming if you really think about it. Starting with the first, because she really did give me 3. We love an extra credit gal. Number 1, squat information. The myth that knees can't go past your toes and that you have to squat blank to grass to be effective is such crap. They're squatting for different purposes, like general strength, those power competitions, 1 rep max, etc. So squats look a smidge different for every purpose and person. For general strength, I like to remind people that your knees shouldn't cave in like this, but they can go past your toes a little if that's how your body works. And when you're at the bottom of your squat, the angle of your ankles should mirror that of your spine. Also, there are studies that show blank to grass squats aren't necessarily the most effective, but show more damage to the body as we age because they're much more strenuous. This is such a tricky one because I think everybody always just has that idea in your mind of, I'm doing a squat wrong if my toes are going over my knees or if my form does not look identical to my neighbor. But if I'm trying to squat as somebody who's 5'2" and Keith is trying to squat as somebody who is 6'4", we're probably going to look a little bit different because our limbs are a little bit different. It's kind of like anything else, just a huge blanket statement for the entire population isn't always necessarily the truth. Now, of course, you want to make sure that you have proper form, but your proper form is probably going to look a little bit different than my proper form. I know when I first started doing group fitness classes, one thing that they always kind of nailed in was that you need to have your squat feel good for you and not compare yourself to what your neighbor's squat looks like and kind of get bummed out by it. A coach is going to come over and correct you if your form is going to hurt you, but something that works for you might not work for the next person. Also, she makes a really good point that there are different squatting techniques for different purposes. For example, a 1 rep max squat is probably going to look a little bit different than if you're trying to go for 15 reps per se, or even a power competition. That's probably going to look a lot different than the way that I try and train for myself. myself. Also, I feel like a good general rule of thumb is that if something just feels very wrong for your body, it probably is. Like, we should just in general always be listening to the signals our body is giving us. And if something hurts, if something doesn't feel good, if it feels very unnatural, it probably is. The second myth that she shared was actually about toning, but we're gonna get to that one in a second. The third myth that she shared is the idea that your workouts will get much easier the fitter or more in shape you are, or that in shape people don't struggle during a workout. She says your workout should be challenging even if you are fit. There's getting comfortable working out with time, but that's different, you know? I hear so frequently that people expect their workouts to get easier while on a program. And the program is progressively overloading, or a conditioning class made to be challenging every time, even when you're familiar with the exercises. That's a really good point, and something that I totally believed myself. I always kept thinking when I first, started my fitness journey, which, when did that even really happen? But let's just say the past few years. I always thought, okay, one day I'm going to get to this point where everything is just easy. It never really gets easier. You get stronger, meaning that you're going to probably increase your weights. Maybe you're going to have longer endurance. Maybe it's just going to feel harder in different ways, and you're going to be better at things that maybe you weren't as strong in when you started. So of course you're going to build strength and you're going to become a better athlete or just a better trainer, but your workout should always be challenging to you. And one of the things that she mentioned is this idea of progressive overload. So let's say, for example, you're going to be doing a certain program by X influencer. You think, okay, it's a 10-week program, you've got all your video guides, you can do them in your living room, you've got your weights, whatever. Week 1 kicks your butt. Week 2, you kind of start to get the hang of things. Then you're starting to think, oh my gosh, by week 9, by week 10, I'm gonna be on top of the world, it's gonna be easy peasy. But a lot of the ways that these programs are structured in a good way is to continually make it harder as it goes on. So yes, you're going to become more comfortable with the pattern of the exercises or the idea of doing a 45-minute workout per se. Why do I keep saying per se? Sounds like I'm in an 1800s novel. Your body gets used to the idea of doing a workout, and it has a little bit of endurance that was built up from the previous weeks. But if you're adding more weights than you would use in the beginning, or if you're doing more reps with the same amount of weight that you hadn't done in the beginning, it's still going to be a challenge for you, and that's a good thing. Now let's go back to that idea of toning, because I want to say at least 3 or 4 different people mentioned this one, which means it's probably important. Not probably, it is. This one's also pretty irritating because almost every single person that mentioned this also mentioned how this is a marketing tactic that's used primarily to target women. For example, Kayla said, my favorite was the idea that women only work out for weight loss or toning. But knowing that a lot of people do it for mental clarity and not just to get stronger and not to exist in a smaller body was so empowering. I love that. As Jazz kind of mentions, the word tone is used in so many different contexts now that it's kind of lost its original understanding. Some people, that's not a problem, but because of the way that it has continually been almost sold to us, the meaning of the word and the actual reality of it kind of get a little bit skewed and definitely do not equate one another. Cough, cough, don't get it twisted. Jasmine had a way better way of saying this. There needs to be some kind of resistance training to build muscle. We aren't taught or told that toning up includes actually working hard and building that muscle. The idea that you can tone up by just doing whatever cardio or using a BS supplement that is being marketed without any mention of proper nutrition to lower your body fat percentage is absurd. People will do endless cardio to slim down but still aren't happy because they don't have that toned look, because no one tells us we have to build some muscle for that look. I love that because you can tell how passionate she is on this topic because it is so frustrating. There's always all of this like talk around trying to get toned, and not really understanding what that means can be a really big problem because you have to be incorporating resistance training into your routine while simultaneously having a low body fat percentage to have that quote unquote toned look. Danny had a really interesting point too. She says the whole concept of high reps and low weight to tone up your body is just it makes me cringe every single time. So let's say you do actually want to tone. What do you do? As Danny mentions, what you need to do is train, as in resistance training. Progress with your lifts and do a caloric deficit at the same time, but the caloric deficit can't be extremely aggressive, as in you can't just go from eating 2,500 calories a day to eating 1,500 calories a day, because not only is that way too little, but it's also going to completely shock your body. It's not gonna know what to do. Very not good. not well. And as she mentions, if you do have a really low caloric deficit, your body's not going to be getting fuel. Therefore, you won't be able to train very hard. So you always have to remember that our food is our fuel and we need carbs, we need our macronutrients, we need our micronutrients, and all of those things are so dang important in being able to fuel yourself through your day, through your workout, through your training, whatever it is. It's better to do it slowly and progress with the weights or form or tempo, etc. Safe to say that toning in general is just kind of one of those weird words that has clearly lost its meaning along the way. There is an absolute correct way of going about it, but I don't think that that correct way is always marketed to us to begin with, which is just hurtful. It really is. If I would have known any of these things when I was first starting out on my journey, even just as a teenager, gosh, my whole world would have been changed. Which brings me to my next point from Justina. So of course I asked Justina, what is the biggest BS online? And she said, definitely diets. The reason they work for some people is because they put them in a caloric deficit. It has nothing to do with what the diet is. Now, if that diet keeps you consistent and you enjoy eating that way, that's fantastic. But it's not a miracle cure. It's just a caloric deficit. This is a really good one. And I would also just say straight out of the gates, of course, the one caveat to this is if you have a illness, if this is a certain diet that you need to follow for you, your body, your lifestyle, because of something that was maybe prescribed to you by a doctor or nutritionist, do what is best for you and your body. This is more so speaking to the general population and the way that dieting culture in particular is marketed to us. Nothing to do with illnesses, nothing to do with diets that are actually offered for people who need them. This is talking about the kind of gimmicks that get sold to us because it's the hot new thing. It's the hot new trend. I basically asked her, do you think that those diets still circulate because of money, marketing, etc., or is it just bad information in general? And she said, marketing. It's been that way forever. Something is always the enemy. For a while, it was carbs. Insert my TikTok about carbs here.
I think this is affecting me mentally, like long-term it's gonna with me.
Then it was fat, then it was sugar, etc., etc., etc. People don't want to hear that it's about balance and consistency. We have the right answer, but there's always something out there that's an easy fix or a miracle cure. Obviously, this is a really interesting topic. So I was talking to my friend about it, who's just about to graduate as a registered dietitian, and this is essentially what she said, which I loved that this not only supported exactly what Justina was saying, but also just furthers that idea of why is something always the enemy? Like what? Now, to me, this is fascinating because I feel like all of my life growing up, I was always marketed to try something different. I would see all of these different advertisements telling me that you have to be low carb if you want to see progress, or if you have this certain body type, you need to do this diet, and if you have this body type, you need to do that diet. And it just got to a point where it's absolute madness. And if you're like me and you've gone down this road of going left and right and back and forth, you took out carbs, you brought them back in, you took out sugar, it never works. Something always goes wrong because at the end of the day, taking anything out, especially a macronutrient like a carbohydrate, is never going to work, especially when we're talking long-term here, as in healthy lifestyle. Interestingly enough, I don't know if this was just pure manifestation in the universe, but ironically that same day Justina tagged me in this post on Instagram, which speaks to exactly what she was saying. Getting strong takes years, not a few months or within a 6-week program. It takes patience and consistency. Unfortunately, those are hard to sell as they're not very sexy to most, but it's the truth. That's a really interesting point that I would love to dissect even further, because we have all of these programs marketed to us and they last 8 weeks, they last 10 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever. And all of those things are fabulous because they're helping us reach our short-term goals. But in the end, nothing is going to be this miracle fix, this miracle change in just a short amount of time. But people don't like that. Like, that's why clickbait titles work for YouTube videos. That's why people love seeing results in just 7 days time, 2 weeks time, whatever, because people want to see their bodies change literally overnight. And like this post is saying, it's not sexy, it's not enticing, it's not the right thing to say if you tell people, oh yeah, it's gonna take you a few years, it's gonna take long, hard work, and you're really gonna have to put in the time and the effort. People are gonna be like, okay, next. fat. Nobody wants to hear that. You want the next quickest thing. So of course that program can help you reach some of your short-term goals, and maybe it's increasing your weights or it's increasing your endurance, or maybe you're able to run further, like a couch to 5K program, for example. That helps you reach your short-term goals, but you have to be consistent and you have to put in that hard work over time, as in multiple years, in order to see some really long lasting sustainable change. I really feel like that idea in particular, I always say in particular, I've realized that a lot lately. Maybe you hear it more than I do, but I say it a lot. I feel like that idea has been perpetrated because of social media, honestly, because people are fighting for attention. You're fighting for followers, you're fighting for subscribers, fighting for people to click on your video, SEO, etc. So you always want to find the next quickest way to get people to subscribe to your content. And what's a way to get people to do that? It's listening to what they want to hear. And what they want to hear is overnight change. What they don't want to hear is that it's going to take consistency, hard work, dedication, and time. All right, next up from Madeline Faith Fitness. She said, I don't know if I specifically learned these from my certification, but what comes to mind is carbs don't make you fat, sugar doesn't make you fat, and you can't spot reduce an area. Speaking to her first point, carbs don't make you fat, sugar doesn't make you fat. Adding on to what we were just saying, it's only about calorie intake. The way you gain weight is a surplus which comes from any foods. Sugar and carbs just get a bad rep for some reason. Carbs are our main source of energy, so we need them. And the reason people think sugar causes weight gain is because things with added sugar are often high calorie or are easily more overeaten. But that alone won't cause you to gain weight unless you're in a calorie surplus. But you could gain weight eating too much broccoli if you're in a calorie surplus. Obviously, just eating carbs and sugar all day isn't ideal. As she mentions, you do want that balance of incorporating macro, micronutrients, getting your vegetables in, of course. But that also goes a lot more into the actual nutrition of food, having a well-balanced diet and taking care of your insides, not just for aesthetic purposes, which of course is always the real reason here, folks. You know, I feel like sometimes that gets very lost in the sauce. Sometimes with the fitness industry, you can feel so much about the way that your body looks on the outside, aesthetically. But like we've talked about before, our bodies are the least interesting thing about us. We are beautiful, wonderful people, and that's because of our insides, our health, our nutrition, our vitals. All of those things are actually way more important than the way that my body looks. Could you believe it? The last little part of Maddie's statement was talking about spot reducing fat, which is also something that Kayla and Holly mentioned. Like Kayla mentions, all of the workout posts that say, if you just do these exercises, you will get abs. When those exercises might help you, you can't spot reduce, and there are a lot of different factors that go into having abs. And as Holly said, people are always like, well, I just want to lose belly fat, arm fat, whatever, and truly that angers me because it just doesn't work that way. I think talking on that and how you can train specific areas or muscles, but you can't straight up just spot train. I know we've talked about this a whole lot on my channel, and it's one of those things that I think in a very good way is more commonly being debunked. But regardless, it's one of those things that you also just need to nail home. And I can honestly understand why this gets confusing for a few reasons. First and foremost, we live in the world of the clickbait titles like we've mentioned. We live in a world where you see a back workout and it says, reduce your back fat. Build that back, baby. Baby got back with this workout. Build that banging back, back it up with this back workout. Those are horrible titles. Don't hire me. We see those titles constantly on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, etc. And how are we supposed to know any better when we see people we trust using those types of titles, thumbnails, text, language, etc., having no prior knowledge ourselves? It makes sense that we would understand that as truth. Then there's also this kind of more scientific perspective, which always tripped me up. Even as somebody who understands you cannot spot reduce, you can't just take fat out of my arm because I want to. Something that always confused me was the idea of, okay, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to have an arm day. I'm going to work on my biceps, I'm going to work on my triceps, whatever. You can strengthen that area, but just strengthening that area does not mean that you're going to lose fat in that area. And I think that was something that kind of tripped me up, and I could understand how it would trip other people up as well. Because in some ways you're like, wait a minute, but I just did an arm day. Why would I not lose fat in my arms? Our bodies just don't work like that. If you're wanting to lose fat, you have to lose fat overall. Every single body is different, and you might even lose fat in one area faster than you lose it in another because of genetics, because of the different ways our bodies are made up. I always lose fat first in my stomach or even my face, and my legs are always the ones that hold the most weight on my body. For you, it might be the complete opposite. We're all so individualistic, and it's so hard to think that there's all of these rules that have been taught as the only thing that works for the entire population. If you really sit down and think about it, that doesn't really feel like it makes sense, you know? Like I've said before, there are so many different workout programs for a reason. There's so many different styles of workout for a reason. And really and truly, at the end of the day, if you're doing what you love, you're moving your body because you love it, you're finding the joy in your workouts, that's what's going to matter. And that's what's going to mean the most to you and your body, and also that healthy lifestyle. I am a little bit sad because Rachel and Soph never responded to my messages. Totally fine. I'm sure they'd say something beautiful and insightful, and I'd insert it right here, and I'd feel very touched by their words, and we'd carry on this moment of debunking all of these horrible myths. Thank you to everyone who did take the time to respond to me. It means so much, and I love learning from all of you. And like I've talked about before, this is really just me coming from that perspective of I'm a student, I'm obsessed with my course, I want to talk about my course. One day I'll have that certification, but for now it's going so well, and I appreciate all of your comments and your questions and your DMs about it. I'm updating you as much as possible. I just don't want to bother you like, hey guys, I'm on chapter 10. We're learning about the body. You're like, okay.
Like, okay? That's what you're supposed to do.
But regardless, thank you for your support. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you learned something fun and new today. I will leave all of the creators' information in the description box. Please check them out. They're all wonderful and amazing, and I'm so grateful that they even just wanted to help me out with this fun little concept, and I hope that maybe you gain something from it as well. Also, thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Remember, the first 1,000, literally 1,000 people to click the link in my description box get a free trial with the Skillshare Premium membership. And after that, it's only around $10 a month. We love to see it. Thank you all so much for watching. Love you all so stinking much. I'll see you in the next one.